What's going on, Bucs fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. And what a day it has been. The official tampering period, or negotiating period, as we're calling it now in the NFL, is underway, and it's brought some news. Good news, bad news, sad news, terrible news. I know a lot of people are in mourning right now. Mike Evans, go figure, is no longer a Buccaneer. Who would have ever thought those words would come out of anybody's mouth? What does it mean? Why is he not? Was it a money situation? What was this? Why is he not there? Someone else left. He's not coming back. But there was also some additions and a re-signing too. So we'll get into all that and more. What it means. What's next? Most importantly, on the other side of the break with a special guest.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
We are live on the other side here on a Monday night, a busy Monday night as free agency frenzy continues. Signings are happening left and right. We'll update you as that goes along, whether they're Buccaneers or whether they have something to do or whether they're a big name. We'll definitely make sure you guys are getting that information out as they come through on the podcast, because we have so much to talk about in so little time. We have Mike Evans leaving the Buccaneers. We have Jamel Dean leaving the Buccaneers. Cade Otton is back, and two new signings as well, and Alex Anzalone and Kenneth Gainwell. We'll get into each one of those, specifically what they mean for the Buccaneers as we roll into the 2026 season starting on Wednesday, and what other moves they need to make. And we'll do that all with a special guest, my former colleague of mine. He's doing the thing over there at Bucs Game Day. He is none other than River Wells. Hey, River, how you doing?
What's good? Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
I am not a Bucs fan, as people are well aware, and that's a Lutz Chiefs helmet before people start to freak out. That's not a Kansas City Chiefs. That is, if you're new here, I am a football coach. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm a football coach, and we do a podcast for our organization right after this. So that's what that's there for. People, relax, calm down. But no, it hurts, though. It does hurt a little bit, I would say. Not being a Bucs fan, but I'm a fan of Mike. I've got to know him over the last 6 years covering him.
Yeah.
I actually was fortunate enough. I was going to post this on X, but I decided not to. Fortunate enough to bring my son to meet him at his last autograph signing over at Fifth Third Bank. And it was a no outside items, but my son tried to push his luck, and it was kind of a cool moment. After he was done with everybody else, the staff tried to usher him away, and my son, he shot his shot, and Mike signed him. The guy was like, no. He's like, wait, that's JC. We're good. And he signed my son's cards and stuff like that. And that's just who, and just talk to him about, I heard you're playing football. How's that going? And stuff like that. And if that doesn't speak to who Mike Evans is as a person, and I'm sure everybody has a story, whether it's in person or whether it's just something that he's meant to you and your family. It makes it difficult. It makes it hard when a play goes like that. I've had Tom Brady, guys. It was difficult. And this was before media, when I had a more logical sense. You guys don't want to know how crazy I was. But yeah, I was a fanatic, and you get wrapped up in it because I think the dude, Jimmy Fallon, said it best in the Red Sox movie. I can't think, I'm blanking on this, where he's like, it's like being a part of something bigger than yourself, and being part of a fandom in a sports, in a group like that. You can see what it does to people. It brings everybody together. It doesn't matter your race, your religion, your politics, your gender. It doesn't matter who you are. Once you find that common goal, that common team to bond around, and that's something, you're going to get into your arguments and disagreements on what the team should do, but it's it. And losing the core member and a core member of the organization is never easy. So my heart goes out to all you Bucs fans. What was your take on it? What was your thoughts on this? Obviously we kind of thought it was going to come down. We talked about it yesterday a little bit on our space, but when it actually came to fruition, because I think there was a piece of us that we were all just like, yeah, but it's Mike, it's Tampa, crazy. Where'd your head go when you saw that flash across the screen?
That's Fever Pitch, that Jimmy Fallon movie. Fever Pitch. Yeah.
It's behind me.
Yeah, we talked about this on your spaces, but I had made it clear I thought in the offseason that it probably would be a good idea for the Buccaneers to move on from Mike Evans, and it'd be a good idea for Mike Evans to move on from the Buccaneers. Mike gets to try and find a place where he can win a title as his career winds down. And additionally, the Buccaneers don't have to spend a lot of cap money trying to retain him when there are a lot of other holes to fix on this team.
Yes.
That was what I thought. I thought that the Bucs were still gonna maybe overpay a little bit to keep him, because that's kind of what's happened every time we've gotten to this point in his career. And of course, Jason Light loves Mike Evans, his first ever draft pick. Like you mentioned, he means a lot to this community and to the people of Tampa Bay. You figured that they would want to get that done, but that's not what happened. And then, to be honest with you, if you guys check out our Bucs Game Day pod on YouTube, you can see my live reaction when I saw that it was a $20 million a year deal, which is not a lot of money, guys, for Mike Evans, especially given what we thought was going to be the case. I had looked at
Wilson Godwin.
Yeah, I had looked at Devontae Adams' contract in Los Angeles as perhaps a barometer for a guy of a similar age who has a lot of production. He was getting paid $22 million a year, and I figured, it's going to be north of that, right? And no, it was $2 million less than that. So that just kind of really shows that he just didn't want to be in Tampa Bay. And honestly, I'm sure we'll get into this. It's kind of hard to blame him given where the franchise is at the moment. But really, that's not a money thing. I think the Bucs could have easily done that. I think if they had done $20 million a year, most Bucs fans would probably be pleased that they had got it that low. Because there were those reports that came out like, it's north of 27, which, like the Browns and the Raiders maybe had in their back pocket. But
they offered it, but that's because they had to even get a phone call to pick up. But
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and there's a lot of ways, and I wrote about this immediately afterwards over on X. And I want to thank everyone for coming in here. If you guys are on YouTube, do me a favor, like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Anytime we go live, you will get notified that. And we go quite sporadically, so you just buckle up and hold on. I'll tell you,
it'll happen. We'll be on occasionally.
Well, I just got a whole bunch of followers this past week, so if you guys are watching on Twitter, just buckle up because you never know which way this is going to go. And I am a rambling man, as River can attest.
I was born a rambling man.
But we have fun here. We have a lot of fun here, and you guys get excellent information because whenever I'm rambling, it's always good information. It's just too much information, but. I mean, you gotta, your heart goes out for a guy like Jason Light if you're feeling any sympathy because you know how much Mike Evans meant to him and obviously Todd Bowles, and both of them put out statements, and we can put those up real quick here for a minute. Mm-hmm. Jason talks about Mike being his first draft pick ever, and we've had these press conferences over the years, and the last one was 2 years ago where it was like, is he going to retire? And I think that was like a big question mark. And this is kind of
he signed a 3-year deal. Yeah.
Right. You knew he wasn't going to retire. You never knew if he was going to take the Calvin route. You knew he wasn't going to retire, but you weren't sure if there was a possibility for him to come back. And a lot of people were in denial, like, why would he ever leave? So Jason talks about that. Go back to Jason's real quick. He talks about his legacy and what he's done, of course. And again, we move over to Todd, and he talks about, the type of player he was, and just being able to get the most out of himself, I think. Because a lot of players lack that self-motivation. They need those outside noises or outside things to kind of, and I think it wasn't probably always like that, but certainly when Tom Brady came in, Mike took it to another level with his off-season training and everything like that. And everything, man. I'll remember last year for the rest of my life. We're in the Buccaneers press box for the home game, and they tell you before the broadcast and again at halftime, there is a strict no cheering for anyone at any time in the broadcast, or you could be subject to removal. Yeah, Mike Evans catches that ball to get his 1,000 yards, and the entire press box started cheering.
I do remember that. I had thought obviously it wasn't going to happen, so I had prepped my Mike Evans misses. His hadn't done it yet. I mean, I had it ready. I had my finger on the button, and they came out for one more play, and I'm like, "There's no way." right?
Yeah.
And then you got it.
You're like,
Yeah.
there's no way that Saints are gonna put like 6 of them. No one cares if it goes to Rashad White for a touchdown.
Underratedly poor effort from New Orleans, I
Yes,
think.
yes,
Yeah,
and I think
underratedly.
hat tip. There's a rivalry there, but hat tip.
Mhm.
That's history. You
Yeah.
don't deny that. But it was awesome. And you look at those two things from Jason and from Todd, and Todd mentions that play specifically. You know how much he's meant to this community. But at the same time, Mike's got to do what's best for Mike. And I don't think anyone's sitting here right now watching this or looking at this. And by the way, if you guys have any comments, whether you're on X or whether you're on YouTube, if you're on X, come join the YouTube, like, subscribe. You can go back to X if you want. I'd rather you stay on YouTube, but come like, subscribe at least, right? But comment. We'll get to your comments. You got questions, we'll get to those. We'll be able to get to some of your concerns, and I'll bring up some of them right on the screen here. So if you got anything, throw them out there. But the biggest thing was, it sounded as we got more and more and more down to the wire here. It wasn't as much as, and I wrote an article about, will the Glazers open up? My whole mock offseason was premised on the Glazers giving more cash budget to spend to keep Mike. And it turns out as we get closer to it, wasn't even the case, River.
No, it didn't even matter.
I think that is the biggest alarming thing. And if we put up his agent's statement real quick, he goes on, it's hard to read, but he pretty much glazes over, what Mike has done and what he's meant to the community and how important and everything like that. But he says, at this stage of his career, Mike's goal, I can't even read that, but pretty much that Mike's goals are to win a Super Bowl, win a championship.
Challenge himself, I believe, is the
challenge
exact
himself
phrase.
and challenge himself in a new offense and scheme. That's the biggest load of crap that you're ever going to get. But Derek was full of crap all day. Someone just said, I saw one of our constituents, they posted something. Someone was on some podcast, a bigger name guy, media guy, and he's like, I don't believe anything that agent said all day. Oh, it was Logan Ryan, the former Bucs corner. Like, I don't believe anything and that's the thing, but that's his job. It's get money day. It's National Lie Day for today, tomorrow, and Wednesday to a lesser extent. But Mike just didn't want to be here. He just didn't think. And I wrote an article. It's up on X, and I'll pull it up. I'll show you guys how to get to it easy. It's really cool to access all of my articles over there. But that's the subtle hints right there that tells you that Mike didn't think that this was a team capable of winning a championship or competing for a championship even in 2026, right, River?
No, yeah, I agree. And I mean, to that extent, I think the statement kind of is a truth there. When you want to challenge yourself in your career, you want to go to a place where you can still win. And people have been going after Todd Bowles and have been doing the 3rd and 28 thing, right? And I mean, I think that's part of it, but I think it's everything. I think it's Todd Bowles. I think it's Jason Light and the way that the talent has come in and some of it hasn't really hit, and the defense has had some trouble there. I think it's organizational, lack of stability. Mike Evans, had he stayed in Tampa, would be on his 5th offensive coordinator in 5 years. You go to San Francisco, you've got 1 for the next 3. So it's
to a lesser extent, Baker himself too, right?
Not to a lesser extent, maybe more than lesser. That's definitely part of it. We talked about this on our pod today, whether you would take Baker or Brock Purdy. But I think the bottom line is
You'll ever get a better line.
Right, and the bottom line is I think Kyle Shanahan is such an elevator on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to play calling in just a way that no one in Tampa Bay would be. So they have a lot of holes to fix in Tampa Bay, a lot of work. They got to get a huge influx of talent in there in defense. Then you got to believe in Todd Bowles to be able to shape it up, and it should be mentioned that his defenses haven't been amazing pass defenses ever since he became head coach, regardless of the talent that's been there. You gotta trust in Jason Light's ability to do that, and so far he's brought in some value signings, and he re-signed one player that we'll talk about later. But he's lost 2 huge free agents, in my opinion, so far today, which is pretty brutal. It's just not really believing that Tampa Bay has anything else to offer Mike Evans, I think is the bottom line. That the Bucs don't have anything else that they can give him in this final stage of his career. And I don't honestly blame him for that, and I don't think they necessarily blame him for that either. Obviously, they wanted him back. And like I said, they might have stumbled into a good thing here because Mike gets to go contend, and the Bucs get to save that $20 million per year on something that they actually really need. And we'll get into this later too. I think the Mike Evans leaving the Bucs does have like a pretty big hole in the wide receiver room that they don't have filled at the moment. So they're gonna have to figure out how to find a guy like him again, or someone who can play like him in the way that he was used. But they've got 3 other wideouts. They need a lot of help on defense, and making sure that they have enough money to do that is probably more important than bringing Mike Evans back on a signing. So
yeah, it definitely hurts, and it's not what the news and not what Bucs fans want to hear.
of course not. And great, you said great community guy,
Yeah.
franchise legend. You never want to see a franchise legend walk away from your team, no matter what the circumstances are. So yeah, I get that sucks. But
You know,
might be a necessary maneuver on both sides.
I think the choice of the team is really interesting too, because he says he wants to go win a championship, and he just went to the conference that he's now going to have to face the defending Super Bowl champions twice a year, and also the Los Angeles Rams, who are
right
good themselves. I don't know what the Cardinals are doing. They just announced Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback with Gardner Minshew as their backup. So I lost the words, but that's still. And the thing is, it's not like he went to the AFC. I was like, let me go to the AFC. It's a little easier. No, he went to the 49ers, a team that they have had numerous matches against over the last 3 years. They finally got on the right side of one this way, but Mike wasn't even there, so it didn't matter. It doesn't to me, it doesn't seem like it's an easier path to at least the playoff. You got to get to the playoffs so we can see how quickly teams can be in the playoffs and then not be in the playoffs. And I'm not even talking about the Bucs, the Chiefs, and I still think the NFC South is probably the easiest path for him to get into the playoffs, but they've made a lot of moves too. We'll talk about some of those later, but it is what it is. Mike Evans is moving on. He went to the 49ers, all the best of luck to him. Maybe he can win a Super Bowl there. Hopefully it doesn't have to go to the Bucs. Another question is, does this maybe open Levante's eyes real quick and say, hey, maybe I'll go play somewhere else real quick. Maybe I'll go. I can get a start. I'll get more money. Maybe I can be I doubt it, but it's a fun question.
We shall see what he does. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised actually that he hasn't made a decision yet. It feels like we're getting really late into the process to not make a decision. Or like actively in free agency, and he's like, I'll see him. It's a little exciting. So that's a little tough as well.
Yeah, it's what are we gonna do? But the Bucs, they didn't just let everybody go. They did let somebody else go, but that was expected. We'll get into that. They did bring somebody else back, and specifically on the offensive side of the ball. And when you can save, the money that you're not spending on Mike Evans, you can distribute those funds differently. And they did so to Cade Otton. Really good deal too. I mean, we thought he was going to make that, but then we started seeing like Daniel Bellinger get like 12 million, other people get like crazy money. And you're like, oh, whoa, what are we doing here? Where are the numbers? Where are the numbers? And they came out and it was just for 10 million, 20 million guaranteed over 3 years, which is still steep. But it's not terrible.
Yeah.
And, now it's one less piece on this offense you really have to worry about. Take Kenyon Sadiq off your draft board. He's not going to go there anymore. And then, just seeing some of the other guys, what they got, even some of the guys who don't have a lot of exposure and played, and Dalton Schultz, the other day, and I know he's been around a bit, but it was interesting to see Cade be one of the first people signed in free agency and back to the Bucs. What were your thoughts on that when it hit? Good signing overall, I think, but how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I am not as high on Cade Otton as a lot of people are. But the thing is that he's reliable. He's reliable, if incredibly unspectacular. And the skill gap between tight ends in the NFL is kind of wonky. There's like a few really, really good ones, and then there's some okay ones, and then it drops off a cliff. And with that in mind, if you want to bring Cade Otton back on a deal like that, because you know him, you can get decent blocking and decent receiving out of him. I don't think he does either one particularly super well. then I totally get it. And the guaranteed money is kind of thing to look at here. I think 3 years 30 is very steep, but if it's only 20 guaranteed, you have some outs early on in the contract if you want to move on. So from that point of view, not a bad bit of business. There are other tight ends that went for less money that I think have a much higher ceiling than Cade Otton does athletically and the way they can affect a offense from a receiving perspective. But a lot of these guys have lower floors. And so if you're a guy like Zach Robinson who kind of wants to know what he has at wide out, nothing crazy, but a guy that can be on there every snap and block all right and catch all right, I think that's not a bad signing for them.
And on the move too. He's a good blocker in space, and
exactly
a lot of movement on this offense. Look back to like Liam Cohen type stuff. It's going to be it's going to be running back and forth a lot. But he's been an Iron Man. He rarely comes off the field for them, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why they've rewarded him is because he's been so consistent. To me, I feel like Cade has kind of reached his ceiling, especially now that he's in Tampa and staying in this offense. He's a 5,505 guy. Yeah. Is that worth $10 million with the cap going up? Probably, I guess. I mean, the Bucs thought so. I do agree with you. I think a move tight end will be something that they look at seriously in this draft. They have Devin Culp on the board, but he has not stepped up yet to take that next level in 2 seasons. They got Payne. They feel comfortable with Payne, but Payne's not an irreplaceable guy. And good old Cole might come back, but I heard he's got quite the market heating up for him as well. So there might be a lot of interest in Cole because of his special teams prowess and able to be used as a blocker and in that fullback, H-back, tight end role. So. But Cade is back, and it's a solid piece. It keeps continuity on your offense. It keeps a blocker on your offense. If you got to put Chooks in there for a couple of weeks, you can put Cade next to him, and you're going to be fine. You have to tweak the offense a little bit, but we'll see what they do at tight end a little bit. You mentioned somebody else already that you thought was a huge loss as well. That's dipped out of Tampa Bay, and that is going to be Mr. Jamel Dean. Don't make a scene. It's just Dean. If you guys are just joining us, you are watching the Pirate Party podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm JC Allen of JC Allen, and this is River Wells of Bucs Game Day. He's pumping out. He's the editor-in-chief over there. He's pumping out some amazing stuff for Game Day Media. Go give him a follow on Twitter. Definitely go check out what the guys over there, my old stomping grounds, are doing. But Jamel Dean, don't make a scene. He leaves the scene. To go, dang it, I wish he was playing in green. He's not playing in green, but he's playing in the Steel City. Black and yellow.
Yes, sir.
The Steelers. He went to the Steelers on a 3-year, $36.75 awkward number deal. And he's going to be a really good addition for them. I think they've had struggled with their cornerback play over the last couple of years there with Joey Porter and a couple of the guys, James Pierre. Had one of the better seasons last year, and then they let him leave for way cheaper what they signed Dean for. And he's never missed games either. But I think Dean's going to be a great fit for him because he is, to me, one of the best cornerbacks in football when he's on. I mean, it's just plain and simple. He showed it to you last year. Put him in press man coverage. You get a front four that can do their job, and Dean's going to lock down a side. And unfortunately for him, is the pressure has sucked for the Bucs the last 3-4 years. And he's faced injuries, or else he would have already probably been an all-pro or Pro Bowl corner, in my opinion. He can't get taken on like double moves and stuff. He does have good recovery speed with that 4.3 40 time, so he can make up for it a lot. And obviously, his hands don't open and close when balls are on there. They do.
That's for every Bucs corner. Yeah,
yeah, it's a mandatory fact. Zion with the wide open. I can't believe that one. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's a tough loss, but you put resources in this position last year. A bunch of them, including dollars. You drafted Benjamin Morrison in the second, Jacob Parrish in the third, and then you gave Zion McCollum an extension. None of that really went the way you wanted to go last year, except for Jacob Parrish, and probably went better because you really know he can play inside and out. But losing Dean hurts because those 3 guys and Josh Hayes, we all know how everyone feels about Josh Hayes.
Me too.
Is all that's on the roster right now. So they have to make some moves here, whether that and to me, I wouldn't be mad if they drafted and signed a corner, a veteran corner. I think I'd prefer them to sign a veteran corner who's had some snaps in the league and then maybe draft a safety nickel to work in there than I would the other way around. But I do think safety's a need. We'll get into that later, but there's no one behind Ty Key and Antoine right now, and you can effectively move both of those guys into the nickel. You don't have anyone behind them, but that's a need. We'll talk about potential players. Maybe Dane Belton just came off the board from the Giants to the Jets. I liked him last year. Jamel Dean left. What are your thoughts on that? And what's the plan afterwards? Because they gotta get something in there, right? They can't just go in the season with those three guys, Josh Hayes and a rookie, can they?
Yeah, this was expected. That being said, even though it was expected, I did a list on Bucs Game Day of like the top 5 free agents the Bucs should really try and re-sign, ranked from like less need to big need. And Jamel Dean was my number 1, actually. And the reason is now that he's gone, like you mentioned, there is a hole in the secondary. The expectation, of course, being that Benjamin Morrison will now play outside, and you got Zion McCollum and then Jacob Parrish there in the nickel, excluding safeties. But either way you look at it, if you don't want Benjamin Morrison to start, then you're missing a starting corner because Dean's gone. If you do want Benjamin Morrison to start, then there's no depth behind either of those two guys on the outside. Like you mentioned, right now it's Josh Hayes. And Morrison himself had a lot of trouble staying healthy last year, and he also had his struggles in his rookie year. He could definitely get better in that regard, but now with Dean gone, the secondary is a big question mark. I think you gotta find a way to fill it in a meaningful way, and that's going to happen in the draft or free agency, and it's going to have to happen soon. And you still need to get an edge rusher. You still, I think, in my opinion, need to get another inside linebacker. Like you mentioned, if you want to get another safety, you still got to do that. The defensive line, the interior's got to get shored up, especially if they don't bring back other depth players like Logan Hall or Greg Gaines. It's rough, guys. It's rough. I am not going to lie to you. they need help everywhere on defense. So, but I think Dean's go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was saying I think Dean's loss is probably the most impactful so far. I mean, Evans' loss is unfortunate. And the Bucs don't really have that X archetype on their team right now with Egbuka, McMillan, and Godwin there. Those are all very good space-finding route runners that can operate well out of the slot. A big-bodied go route, kind of take the top off the defense, contested catch, red zone guy. I don't think they have with Evans gone. But you can survive with those 3 wide receivers, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I think Tez even.
Yeah, Tez can kind of try and do that. Yeah, but with Dean gone, your secondary is razor thin. So that's a big loss, and they're gonna have to figure out some way to fix that and kind of correct that. Maybe a corner in the first round of the draft, depending on whether or not they get an edge rusher via trade or in free agency. They're gonna have to really find a way to patch that hole, because that could be pretty bad if they don't figure that out quick.
Yeah, right. The defense right now needs some help, and I'm glad you brought up that, how big of a loss and what they need on the defense, because that's where I wanted to transition into. Before we do that, just want to remind you guys, you're watching the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Stick Podcast Network.
That you are.
Host Jason here, and this is River Wells. We're obviously talking about the Bucs' big day in free agency, the losses, the signings, and what else is next down the line. Before we get into jumping on the defensive side here, I did just want to show you guys something here. I've talked to you guys about it before, but I'll talk to you guys about it right now. So recently, or I don't think I've talked to you guys about it, but if I haven't, I have. If I have, here we go. So I've recently started writing for myself over here on X. So all of my written content, instead of going to Bucs Game Day or Pewter Plank or Pewter Report or where Bucs Report, wherever I've worked, is all going to be right here at your fingertips right here on X. So if you're watching from X, it's super easy. If you're watching on YouTube and you use X, it's right here. If you don't use X, I'm sorry, but that's where news is. That's where sports happens. So that's where I'm going to happen going forward. It's been 7 days. I've seen tremendous growth and results, so I'm loving it already. And it's so much simpler for you guys too. If you're scrolling down your feed or whatever, and you just want to jump into an article, it doesn't bring you outside of the page itself. It's right here. You're still right in Twitter. Here's my full article of my tracker with the free agent signings, updated, exclusive rights, free agent departures, all that stuff too. And we know, but one thing that made me kind of concerned about this is we know how Twitter likes to just put something out and then disappear it. If you guys are really interested in coming and reading my stuff, you can come right to my page right there, mobile or desktop, and there's an articles button, and you can find all my recent work right here. I have the Evans conversation we talked about earlier. Jamel Dean, we just talked about leaving. Mike Evans signed with the 49ers. And here we go. Let's talk about these two signings right here. Because I think these are big ones. We'll start with the defensive one. And again, guys, you just pop it open and everything's right here. Yes, I am bookmarking and saving and retweeting my own stuff to boost my algorithm and bump it up there. Sue me. You guys do it more often. I won't have to. But yeah, so it's nice and easy. Let's talk about Alex Anzalone here, because this is a guy who I had in my mock offseason as a ideal choice, and the Bucs land him here on a 2-year, $17 million deal, which isn't bad, especially when you start to look at some of the other numbers that these linebackers are signing for. What are your thoughts on the signing of Alex Anzalone here to upgrade the defense and start filling the holes at linebacker that were left by Lavonte David potentially, and certainly not occupied very well by Servacio Dennis?
Yeah, the money was really good for Alex Anzalone. I thought we had to still learn a little bit about kind of the specifics about the guaranteed money and whatnot. But I didn't mind that part. I do think there's some concern with Alex Anzalone, kind of a similar concern that you have with Lavonte David. He is 31 years old, so he's not as old, but losing that kind of sideline speed, ability, and coverage over the last 2 years, he had a negative EPA in coverage the last 2 years for the first time in the last 5. So that's something to think about. If you like PFF, though, 65.3 coverage grade, not bad. And that's something you could look for there. And he's a veteran presence in that room. If I saw the Bucs bring in another inside linebacker to play alongside him, I would like this move quite a bit. I think he offers a lot there. And then if you were to bring in no one and just have Lavonte David be the other inside linebacker, I think there is still a little bit of room for concern for that room. But he's shown that he can play coverage real well whenever he's healthy. He struggled with that a little bit too. And although he's slowing down, kind of like a guy like Lavonte David, who had a really high football IQ, very instinctual, had 2.5 sacks last year. Lavonte also had his sacks last year, so he can do those things that Todd Bowles likes to do in his defense. The matter will just be if he can stay healthy and if he has the speed to maintain those coverage skills that we have seen from him earlier in his career. It looks like it's kind of going down a little bit, but for the money that they got him for, I like it.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing too. And I think you're right. If they bring in somebody else, it looks a heck of a lot better, right? Whether that's a rookie or somebody else, and someone with speed and someone that has a little bit, someone that can move still sideline to sideline, and might not have. I think any rookie you bring in here is going to struggle with coverage in the NFL right away. So even if you get Sonny Styles, Alvaro Reese, you look at even Jalen Walker or any of these other guys who played.
Looking like Reese is going to be an edge rusher, but
we'll see what he probably shouldn't be, in my opinion. But
I agree with you. But that's what he wants. That's what he wants.
That's what he wants. Give the man what he wants and see him what.
Well, he wants that bag from the contracts that edge rushers get. I think is what he really wants.
Oh yes, okay, that makes sense. Now I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I think they'll be fine with Anzalone. I think his coverage skills are better than what Lavonte has been right now, and they're certainly better than what they've gotten the last 3 seasons. Potentially essentially even longer than that if you want to go back to Devin White. The length of the contract, and I know we'll get some terms, but even if it's 17, that's what, $8.5 million or $9.5 million, right? Yeah, 9.5
I think it would be 9.5. Yeah,
it's not terrible. I don't math well. Y'all know this. You don't now. You do.
8.5, right? 8 or 17.
8.5. Yeah, it's 8.5. 8.5.
I'm also bad at math, guys. I'm also bad at math. Yeah.
Help us out, man. Jeez, all crickets in the comments. But yeah, so I think that definitely helps. It's not crazy. And we'll see the final numbers. It could have been up 2, but the agent's like, leave the up 2 out. We'll see what it finally comes in. I forget what I had him signing for. I think it was like 2 for 14. It was like 6.5. It was 13 or 14, something like that. So similar, not too far.
You got close. You got close.
Not too far off from there. Again, if they brought in I think it'd be perfect. And then draft someone in the draft, Kyle Lewis or something like that. But the Bucs didn't just add to the defense, even though they definitely need to add to the defense some more. They also added to the offense. Bring that back up, Jimmy, in the back. They also brought in a running back from the Steelers to replace the ones they're going to lose. Jimmy, bring that back up. Share the screen. There we go. They also brought back a running back here from the Steelers, Kenneth Gainwell. He was actually the Steelers MVP last year, voted on by the players. They signed him to a 2-year, $14 million deal with $10 million guaranteed, according to Jordan Schultz. You can find all that information here. I like the move. I like Tyler Algier a lot, but I didn't think that. I thought they needed a more ground and pound guy. They decided that you can bring it down now. They decided that they want to go with more of a Rachaad White type of guy, a guy who can be a dynamic receiver out of the backfield, good pass protector, and we'll see what they do about that pesky pick up the short yardage situation. Maybe they feel like they can get someone later, in the draft or later in free agency, or maybe a Roman Embry to be that guy for them to pick up those short yardage. We'll see how that plays out. I don't know. But what I do know is they got Kenneth Gainwell. And from what I've seen and what I've read and what I've kind of picked up from other people, seems like a pretty good pickup. What are your thoughts on it?
I actually agree with you 100% with everything. First thing being, if you want a Rachaad White type back, I think Kenneth Gainwell is just a better Rachaad White type back. I think he's got really good receiving value at the backfield. I think he can run better than Rachaad White could. He was averaging 5.5 yards per touch, over 1,000 yards from scrimmage last year, 8 touchdowns. He played a very good season in Pittsburgh. And if you want a guy that fits that archetype to replace Rachaad White, I think you got him for a really good value too, because I think Rachaad might actually kind of get a similar sort of bag. So, in that case, I think you've just replaced him with a better player, which I like. I do agree with you. I figured the Bucs could kind of go with a more ground and pound heavy power back to complement Bucky Irving in those 3rd and 3 situations where you need 3 yards. The Bucs sometimes kind of didn't know what to do because they didn't have a guy that could do that.
First and goal and goal
and second goal and third and goal and fourth and goal.
Penalty and first and goal and second and goal and third
right.
and goal.
You just need one of those. And they tried to make it Sean Tucker, but Sean Tucker's a speed back, so to me it never really worked that well. So they like the Rachaad White kind of guy, and if they can get those short yardages and have a high success rate on 3rd downs, that's pretty impressive. So I actually like this one a lot for the money. I think it really replaces a player that they like with a better archetype, and Gainwell's done a lot of good work. He's very talented in the pass game. I have not seen enough film on him to know if he's as good of a run blocker as Rachaad White was. Rachaad White was pretty nasty in the trenches there, so you might miss that. Yeah, but I like that one a lot. They do need a lot more help on defense. So whether or not the value of that matters to people and, they should have gone and done that's up for debate. I think it's fair. But to just get a supplementary back who can probably take more reps and not have Bucky Irving be a 4-down back and get pulverized, I think that's a pretty big plus. Also, the return game might help there. So they've been trying to figure that out forever, I think, and they're still trying to figure that out. So we'll see what happens.
He offers a little flexibility there in the return game, but I think, being that guy who can not just it's not a guy who can just be like, he's the backup. I feel like it's going to be a complementary piece right there. And I think after last year, you realize that maybe Bucky can't hold up for a full season physically, but I think more importantly and the scarier thing was mentally. And that's not to make any light. Everyone goes through their stuff. I go through my own stuff. Trust me. But when you're paying someone millions of dollars to do their job, and then unfortunately they get injured at it, and then they can't mentally get out of their own way for whatever reason. And I'm just speculating based on stuff. I don't know anything. There was, what was out there during the season. You want to have a contingency plan and a backup plan. I think it'd be funny if Rachaad White gets less than this. Because it pretty much
he might get a little less,
like
but
you said, it pretty much replaced him with
a guy who kind of did his thing, but arguably offers more value.
It will be pretty funny about that. But I think you're right too, and when you're saying it's not done, you can't be done. Like this is, you got to make more moves, you got to make more splashes, and people
you got to make a lot more.
Where's the
If
edge
this
rusher?
is
Where's the edge
if
rusher?
this is all they do, man, that'd be tough. So yeah,
Right.
they'll do something else. Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Where's the edge rusher? Where's the edge rusher?" So let's get into the edge rusher,
Yeah.
because what and I tweeted this out, and I think you saw it, or maybe reposted it. But what so far today tells me is that the Bucs had clear objectives in their mind. They wanted Mike Evans back. They wanted to get Alex Anzalone, and they wanted to get Kenneth Gainwell.
Check.
When it started to become more and more clear that Mike wasn't coming back, they pivoted. And they pivoted before noon even happened, because Cade Otton was one of the first ones. So they had to have a really good knowledge, a good grasp.
I think they probably had that grasp for a little bit.
I think they did too, but it was kind of like every Bucs fan, right? Jason, holding on hope. Maybe he can give us a chance. So I think, they kind of pivoted early. I think today is when they made that decision, like, hey, let's stop the full court press. He knows he knows. Yeah. Let's pivot to Otton, and if we can make something happen after that, we'll make something happen to that. And then they go after those two outside free agents. So that tells me is that three things happen. One, asking prices were insane. Jalen Phillips got crazy money. Odafe Oweh, to me, got crazy money. A lot of people got crazy money. A lot of people got some crazy money today for edge rushers that made your eyes open. So what that tells me is that, A, these edge rushers, they're asking prices way too high, and Bucs are waiting it out. Whether that's a Trey Hendrickson, whether that's a Joey Bosa or whatever. And I'm not even saying Joey Bosa in the sense of like, $18 million. I'm talking about some of these players who right now it's the first day and they know people want to spend some money, who they're saying, oh yeah, he's really a $4 million guy, but he's asking for $8 million and he's not coming down to like $6 million. But he's a $4 million guy. I'm not going to overpay. If I wait it out, maybe. So I think that's what the Bucs are doing. And what that tells me is that they just really weren't interested in this class. They said that, it came out through Rick Stroud that they weren't really impressed with this class. The edge rusher class, to be honest with you, not really impressive. Your best two players in this free agent class was Khalil Mack, who's already signed up, and Trey Hendrickson, the most proven guys. You got Jalen Phillips, Achilles and ACL. You've got some of these other guys, Kwity Paye,
insane contract for Phillips given his injury history.
Oh my God! Yeah, I mean, Kwity Paye got the bag. Boye Mafe got the bag. Odafe Oweh got the bag.
And Oweh's a good player, but 25 a year.
They're all good players, but they haven't done anything yet. There's no consistency. Mafe had a good season and then was off the other one. Like same thing with Osai and some of these other guys who got the bag. I mean, Malcolm Kuntz got $10 million. Mm-hmm. That's your floor right now, guys. Like a Malcolm Kuntz player is going to cost $10 million. Mm-hmm. So do I pay $10 million to Malcolm Kuntz? Or do I wait till Tuesday or Wednesday and get a Malcolm Kuntz-like player for $6 million? It's this waiting game I think the Bucs are playing. They know they have to add to the edge room. They are going to add to the edge room. It's going to happen. But I think they're more comfortable addressing it through the draft than free agency. And I think that's what this has told me, unless Trey Hendrickson's number drops or they make a move. They make a trade for like a Jonathan Grenard. But that comes with a contract demand and a day 2 pick. So what are your thoughts right now? Does that sound like what you think happened with this edge room? Am I reaching here, or do you think that people saw Mike Evans leave and they're like, yeah, why would we go there?
I would have loved the Greenard move until the reports came out that he needed a new contract, because I think his contract's really reasonable. Yeah, so I was like, I don't know,
$22 million on the cap.
Right. Hendrickson's looking like a mirage in the desert right now, especially if Oweh gets. Yeah, but I'm saying from a contract perspective, if Oweh gets $25 million a year, Hendrickson's going to be expensive, and the Bucs can do that if they think that he's going to be a complete game wrecker immediately. I mentioned this on the Bucs Game Day podcast. At this point in the offseason, usually how it goes, I think every year, you can get edge rushers who are either injured constantly or old. And the good news is that Trey Hendrickson is both of those things. But the 17.5 sacks the last 2 full seasons he played, very alluring. They have to get an edge rusher in there. It's just that obviously Jason Licht's had a little bit of trouble finding an edge rusher, either through free agency or the draft. He struggled in that area quite a bit. I always thought the thing with Shaq Barrett is that he got Shaq Barrett sitting behind Von Miller on the Broncos. was a Cade, had a few more sacks and like 5 sacks a year before he came to Tampa Bay, and then immediately broke the franchise record. So I think there's definitely a school of thought of trying to find an edge rusher who's kind of sitting behind somebody, and then trying to develop them from there, because that's what happened with Shaq Barrett. I think the other thing, though, is that, I do think that Bowles and Light are kind of on the hot seat right now. I think if next year you win 8 games and miss the playoffs, I think they are cleaning everything out. So there, I think, is a sense of urgency from guys like Jason Light and from Todd Bowles that you would think maybe we have to go get a proven option, because if we don't get a proven option and we have no production on the line again, then we're in really, really big trouble. Jason Light, that being said, 2 value signings so far in free agency, which is his MO basically every year. Doesn't seem that nervous based on the way that he's currently doing his thing. So can try and get one of the draft. That hasn't worked out for a while. So can try that again, or can try and get a value signing at edge rusher in free agency. Tried that last year kind of with Hassan Reddick. That didn't work out either. So we'll see what happens.
So
but,
I'm looking right now. I mean, if you look at the edge rusher market right now, you got Trey Hendrickson, obviously. You've got Joey Bosa,
you do.
Cam Jordan, Jadeveon Clowney, Bradley Chubb, DJ Woonem, if you like him. Kayvon Chazon is probably another high-end coming off a really good year. Other than that, like, we're starting to get into guys who've never lived up to their reputation. A guy like Azeez Ujulari, who's in the same classes of Odafe and Pay, I believe, and scraping for parents. And then you've got Preston Smith, who was with the Packers for a while. Peyton Turner, you can try to he was in the same draft class as Logan Hall. Then you got the old guys like Leonard Floyd, Dante Fowler Jr. Arnold Ebiketie is interesting to me to an extent, but like you can revisit Joe Tryon-Shank if you think a year with behind Myles Garrett did something for him. Certainly didn't do anything on the stat sheet, but that's it. I mean, I think like if I'm the Bucs, if I'm a Bucs fan right now, I'm hoping for upside and to see if I can get something out of him. Arnold Ebiketie, probably, who I'm looking for. Maybe Kayvon Chazon, though I don't think he fits this scheme that well.
No.
Or I'm hoping for Joey Bosa or Trayvon Hendricks. And if that's not it, I don't see anything that moves the needle.
I would agree.
Or moves the needle even for depth. Like Bradley Chubb doesn't do anything anymore. Jadeveon Clowney. If you're looking for a rotational depth guy who can come in and make $6-7 million a year, I'm fine with that. But you better 6-7. You better so dumb. You better draft an edge rusher in the first round, and you better like be sure about him. And John Ledyard, everyone, if you guys know John Ledyard you should know John Ledyard. He does an amazing work with Audible Analytics.
Really does.
Is great. He is very opinionated, but what makes him so great and very meticulous. But he does great insight. And he's really, really high on this entire edge rusher class. There's guys in round 2, round 3, round 4. He thinks that can be day one impact players either as a rotation or even starters. So he's very high in this edge class. And the Bucs are too. They interviewed a bunch of them, all different sizes and shapes and sizes. They've been attached to a bunch of them. But, I don't want anything. If it's not Trey Hendrickson, if it's not Joey Bosa, if it's not Kayvon, again, Kayvon doesn't even fit really. Arnold Ebiketie or Jadeveon Clowney, like, I'm fine with skipping this altogether and just waiting for the draft because I don't think there's anything there worth it. At that point, I'd rather pay Jonathan Grenard $25 million and trade my second-round pick and have an impact guy.
Right. I'd push back on Joey Bosa, to be honest with you. We're a long way from Joey Bosa's really productive years. Last time he had more than 6.5 sacks was
5 forced
2021
fumbles last year.
Which is very valuable. But as far as sack production, it's very pedestrian, and he hasn't played a full season either since 2021. So something to think about.
It'd have to be a value signing, right? Where this isn't going to be something where we're going out and even giving Hassan Reddick money. This is like you're getting like $6, $7, $8 million a year kind of money,
right?
Heavily incentive laden, and we'll see what happens. I'm fine with that. If you start giving him Hassan Reddick money if you pay anybody on the market more than $10 million right now, other than Trey Hendrickson, I think you've been bamboozled, in my opinion.
That's
there.
fair.
And if you
That's
pay
fair.
Trey Hendrickson over $25 million, you've certainly been bamboozled, in my opinion. There, don't get desperate and pay his price if it's that high, just because you need an edge rusher. Wait to the draft. Let's jump into some other positions right here, and then we'll get out of here. We got about 10 minutes left. Again, you guys are watching Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm JC Allen, your host. This is River Wells, our guest from Game Day. This is him. And we're talking about Bucs first day of free agency. If you missed it, we already talked Mike. We already talked Jamel. We already talked Cade and the new signings of Kenneth Gainwell and Alex Anzalone. Now we're talking about what's next, right? What is going to happen next? And we just talked about edge rushers. What else is there there's a lot to address, but what else would you like to see them? Give me a name or two of guys who are still out there that you'd like to see them see in red and pewter next season to wrap this up.
Oh man, put me on the spot, huh? They definitely need some interior linemen. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but Greg Gaines out of the picture. It's looking like as a depth piece. They've really got to get bigger, like Todd Bowles said. They got to shore up that room. Whether or not you want Logan Hall back, I know you wrote an article about this, mentioning that he's knows the system. He's been in it before. That would be up to you, but there are guys up there that you could nab. I think they need some help in the cornerback room. A lot of good corners got swept up today initially, so kind of looking at some.
They get signed?
I don't know. I saw
one of the guys I kind of liked for him was Sheldon Rankins, but he was signed up. I think DJ Reader's still out there, but Daniel Namada. They're looking for like a
Sebastian Joseph Day did not get signed, as far as I can tell.
Jonathan Allen is who I would love. Because he's only going to cost the minimum. But now that Mike's gone, I don't think you have a shot at convincing him to come here. I think you'll get a real contender for $1 million to give him. But I'm with you. There's really not much out there here either. Luckily, the draft is really strong with defensive tackles. I do have the body type. But I think the more we go on, the more it looks like Logan Hall, if he takes $5-6 million, might just be a better option than plugging it into somewhere else, unless you want to bring old Rakeem Nunez-Roches back.
That's true. He is available. Nacho, as they call him. Underratedly, maybe. And I don't think you should spend too much money on this, but we briefly talked about it at the beginning of the podcast. You kind of do need a big-bodied X wide out at some point. Yes. There are probably cheaper options you can get that won't break the bank, but a bigger guy to kind of fill that role might not be a bad idea either. So something to consider and think about. I'm
not too familiar with the guys in free agency, but as far as a draft, there are some Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame.
Yes, for sure.
Out of USC and McAllister out of TCU are three guys who have really caught my attention early. If you guys want to go check those out. But in free agency, I wasn't too well versed because they're good.
Yeah, they are good. They are guys there.
They could use a big bodied X, but they're good.
They could use one, but they don't perchance need one. It'll all depend on
this season. It won't be the end all be all to their offense. It will still move effectively and functionally.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see what they do given that archetype gone. If they'll try and convert one of those guys like Emeka to start playing outside or yada yada.
I think it's gonna be Jalen. I think Jalen will probably take over.
Jalen McMillan is also a fairly good man separator, which would help in that type of archetype. So that would be nice.
That Emeka probably slides over to Jalen's spot, and then Chris goes in the slot. Yeah. I think that kind of works out, and I think there'll be times
with Chris's contract, you better get a lot of use out of it. So, yeah.
You can't put him outside though. That's the problem. We saw what
they tried that in 2023 under Dave Canales. Didn't really work that well. Yeah. Okay. So.
All right, I think offense, maybe you're looking at an offensive interior lineman. I think that's a big one that you need. Tevin Jenkins is a fun one. If you want someone with a strong experience, I think he might want to go somewhere else. So I put Daniel Brunskill, who's played 70 starts across the entire line in my battle plan. You don't want Michael Jordan back. You don't want Charlie Heck back. Nope. But someone that can either play tackle and guard or guard and center. I think you definitely need that on the roster. You like what Ben Shakuma gave you, but again, he's got 2 years of football, now 3. And only 2 starts in the NFL. You need something there. if you had to pick one other spot, or if you had to pick one spot, right? Because we already talked about needing an edge, needing another linebacker, you had to pick one spot to have, needing a cornerback, safety, or safety, or one of those interior line spots, or one of those backup spots. Would you rather have them get a versatile safety that can play both safety spots? Would you rather them fill veteran, or would you rather play with that interior offensive lineman, tackle, guard type player? Which one of those three guys do you think they need to round out the show going forward and have to come out of free agency with, to make sure that they have good enough depth with veteran experience? Because they have depth there, but they don't have veteran depth there going forward into the season.
If I had to pick one, I'd say interior line. Having depth there is always pretty helpful given the injuries they faced. On top of that, you saw guys like Graham Barton wasn't in the best situation last year with two, backup guards next to him, but didn't play particularly well. So
And the
there's
beginning of the season screwed him up too.
right, yeah, by kicking him out to left. I still think about that.
Center your tackle.
I'm like, man, remember when they did that? That was wild.
He wasn't bad in week 1, though. I mean, he got destroyed week 2 a little bit, but
he was as good as he could be for a center that was suddenly told to play left tackle.
Terrible.
But yeah, I mean, given that what happened with Barton in the interior line last year, I think it would be important to try and get some extra stuff to shore that up. That wins championships, guys. Those lines, those interior lines on the offense and defense side of the ball. They put Super Bowl championships in the weight room now, and that's where you end up winning them. So that's definitely a good idea. Safety, I think Tyke Smith played some good football. Antoine Winfield Jr.'s got to show at some point, that he's worth the contract he got 2 years ago. He's had 2 brutal down years. There's an argument last year Todd Bowles had, I think, an underratedly bad Todd Bowles quote when he said we're using him to babysit. So Antoine's definitely a big on-ball, attack the football type player. He likes to get close to the action. Perhaps dropping him all the way back into center field does not really play to his strengths very well. And perhaps that led to a little bit of some downplay on his end too. But he's got to also, it's also on him a little bit to make those plays and play better. And he's, I think, disappointed the last 2 years. So if they can get him kicking and they can get him playing, and Tyke Smith can continue that momentum that I thought he had a pretty good campaign last year, should be good there. You're right. They do need someone behind them. And that secondary depth all across the board is just brutal. So they got to bring in some guys.
I love JJ Roberts, and I know they're high on him too. He's going to come back.
That's true. That's true.
He was one of my best Bucs fits last year as an undrafted free agent. I think he's someone that they're really high on, but you need somebody. And as I mentioned, nickel spot, I feel like you're pretty dang good right there.
Parrish look good. Parrish look good.
You got 4 players who can play there. You got JJ that can play there. You got Tyke and you got Antoine. But you're right. Outside corner and safety, you need some help there, veteran help. It's got to be, you either got to get a safety that can play both spots and nickel, or you got to get a counter corner that's got that flexibility to play inside, outside, both sides. Interior line to me is the biggest one. You're right. Trenches win championships. And if you can't block, you can't rock. And that's passing and running. So no block, no rock. And the Bucs didn't block. And in fact, it impacted everything. So I think that's hugely important. I would also like to see them potentially draft an interior lineman before the 5th round, or in the 5th round, because you got Ben Bredesen coming up next year. Cody Monk's on a contract year, and I think Cody Monk is probably someone that they're going to want to extend and bring back. But you got to be hedging your bets, and especially if you can get one this year who develops, and then maybe you do bring back Cody. But this guy develops and he beats out Ben. Now you don't have to worry about that. Now you have Ben Bredesen as that flexible center guard type of position. But we'll see how that all goes. River, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Go ahead, promote yourself, pimp yourself out. What are you doing? Where you're at? I told people, but you go ahead and tell them in your own words.
I am currently employed by Bucs Game Day. At River H. Wells on Twitter is my Twitter, where you can find me. I post tweets about football. I post articles. I sometimes tweet about things that are not football related. So if you care about any of those 3 things, I tweet about those. Go on bucksgameday.com. We got a lot of stuff there. And then, of course, on YouTube, Here Are the Cannons is our podcast. I do stuff like this. on Here Are the Cannons. We usually go once per week, but now in free agency, if there's anything breaking, you go to our YouTube channel. We're probably going to be live about it. So a lot to talk about today, maybe a lot to talk about tomorrow. We'll see what the Bucs do. And then, of course, the 11th is the true start of free agency at 4 p.m. Happy League New Year, everybody. It's the best New Year of the year over the actual New Year. So that's what I do. Feel free to give me a follow. I'll be talking Bucs during the season. I like to talk about some advanced analytics. I like to take a look at some trends and what the Bucs are doing or not doing, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff over there at BG. I should know. I was there. River, thank you so much. Definitely have you on again, as we normally do. Have a great night, buddy.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's going to do it for us here at the Power Parlay Podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. Before we get out of here, just want to show you guys one more time how to access all my content, because this is kind of a new thing that X is doing. It's a new thing that I'm doing. I want to make sure you guys are staying in touch with everything I got going on. So pretty much simple. If you come to my homepage, my profile, doesn't matter if you're on desktop or if you're on your phone, iOS, Android, if you have one of those phones. But there's an article tab now right here for you. And it has everything listed right here. If something disappears for a second after something was signed, that means I've had to edit it to put the numbers in, or same thing with the tracker. If you go to look at the tracker and it's not there, give it like 2 minutes, because I'm updating the numbers. Because it unpublishes it and then publishes it for a second. I don't know why. I think it's done. But all of my recent work is right there. I'll have more articles coming out, obviously, as stuff goes on throughout the day, as people get signed. I am fully prepped for this free agency here. So you can see everything's right there. All of my stuff, my breaking news pieces, my analysis pieces, my tracker pieces, all these things and more, you can find over here right at your fingertips at X, without having to click out and go to, you can bring me back now, without having to click out and go to any other website or anything like that. It's all right there. And then you just pop back out, and now you're scrolling back again. So super convenient for y'all. What I could use your help with is likes, bookmarks, retweets, anything like that, quote tweets, anything like that. Just, gets in front of more people, gets the algorithm going, and says, hey, this is something that people don't just look at, they want to engage with it, and we're going to show more of it. Hopefully I don't drown your timelines, but I am your one-stop shop for all things Bucs, whether that's stats, info, news from the Buccaneers themselves, my news, my articles now, my podcast, our spaces. We'll probably do a space tomorrow. So look out for that on X, probably at noon. We'll stick with probably noontime, lunchtime. We'll do a space for about an hour or so. Maybe I'll get some more content. Oh, that's another thing. If you did not get to tune into our content creator space yesterday, I had some of the best Bucs writers and content creators in Tampa Bay on with me. I had River was on there. Logan Robinson and Caleb Skinner of Bucs Game Day. We had Josh Capo of Pewter Report, James Yarcho of Locked On Bucs, Luke Easterling of Athlon, Tampa Tones from Buccaneers, Michael Pless from Real Bucs Talk, and so many more. Josh Chrysler of Peter Plank. I'm missing someone. Evan Winter of A to Z Sports. I'm still missing so many people. It's on there on my page. You just got to scroll through all today's madness and you'll find it, or just go to my spaces on there. You should be able to find it. Either type it in space. It's called Bucs. We're calling them Bucs Breakdowns. So we got those Bucs breakdowns going on over there. So all my content moving to X. Podcast is still here on YouTube, which I appreciate any love, support. I notice I get more comments over here. So I see you guys. I see you, Tampa guy. I see you, Hawkster. I see you, Leroy over on X, and Ed. And who else we got? Someone, Christopher Cole's up there. He's always hanging around. I love that. He says, Trey Hendricks, please. Some of these are funny, but they're way past due. I'm sorry, I was in the zone. We had 2 backs behind Bucky last year. Didn't stop them from treating him like a prime Eddie George. It's true. It's like, and the thing is, Sean Tucker's a guy who's got to get his legs underneath of him, or you can't just put him in for a rep and be like, oh, why didn't he go off for 30 yards on the run? Because he needs that constant. So he's definitely, I would be shocked if he comes back, especially after the Gainwell deal. Again, Roman Hemby, Indiana, going to cost you like a 5th round pick. He can get the short yardage pass block. He's willing. And he can also catch the ball like a bandit. So I like him a lot. They may draft another tight end. I think they'll probably draft another 10. I don't think they overpaid for Otton. I think if you look at what some other guys got, I think that is right on the money there. But those are my thoughts for today. Keep an eye out on X, because we're going all night. Never know what could happen. I probably won't sleep much tonight. I'll be too excited because free agency frenzy is underway. We've got one more day before everything starts to become official at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, the official start of the new league year. I can't wait. Won't be on. It's my son's birthday on Wednesday. That's why we did this today. So I won't be on for Wednesday's show. But maybe we'll pop on Friday, depending on what happens. I think that's a good idea. And we'll probably have a space. We'll probably have some spaces the next couple of days, depending on what's going on. So definitely a space tomorrow at noon. I'll get that up tomorrow, and we'll see what Wednesday brings. But guys, again, appreciate you. Thank you so much. I told you I was a rambler, first timers. Appreciate you guys. So we're going to try to get out of here for 5 minutes now. I appreciate everyone for coming in here, hanging out to another episode of the Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm JC Allen, your host. That's a Lutz Chiefs, not a Kansas City Chiefs. We're out of here. Next time. Peace. Out. Later.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.